That subtle background noise you hear isn't just the ticking of 4 cylinders where 6 formerly lived. It's the gnashing of teeth over the fact that Porsche downsized cylinder count and piston displacement to a mere 2.5 litres for the top S edition of the 2017 718 Boxster. Our anxiety centres on the move by Porsche, along with practically every other auto manufacturer, from natural aspiration to smaller, theoretically more efficient, boosted induction. In case you've been napping, turbocharging is how makers maintain performance while diminishing the amount of fuel consumed and the CO2 spewing from their tailpipes. Turbos, then and now. This is hardly Porsche's first trip through Turbo Valley. Fans of the brand still revere the legendary 911 Turbo bestowed upon wide-eyed enthusiasts 41 years ago. What that rear-engine bundle of turbo lag lacked in general drivability, it more than made up in excitement when the boost kicked in. A few fenders bent in those early days combined with countless turbocharging lessons learned over the years culminate in what is today a full family of twin-turbo 911 models, plus single-turbo 718 Boxsters and Caymans that arrived at dealers this summer. To celebrate the occasion, Porsche revived one of its most illustrious model codes for the 4th generation Boxster Cayman. Throughout the late 1950s and early 60s, the Rennsport department's endurance racers, hill climbers, and Formula 1 and 2 single S-seaters all were 718s. Turbocharging is one of the 20th century's most significant engine advancements. Swiss engineer Alfred Butchie earned a seminal patent in 1905. In 1918, Jas Sanford Moss demonstrated how efficiently this device could replace the power lost to altitude at bike's peak. By World War II, turbotech was one of America's most significant strategic assets. Chevrolet and Oldsmobile introduced the first turbocharged cars in 1962. Operational theory hasn't changed. Energy normally dumped to the atmosphere out the exhaust pipe instead spins a turbine wheel connected by shaft to a centrifugal compressor. Think 2 pinwheels attached to one spindle. The compressor in turn boosts the pressure and density of the air delivered to the combustion chambers, significantly raising power output. A turbo is the ultimate energy recycler. Porsche adds a few turbo tricks. The Boxster S has small pivoting vanes that direct exhaust flow toward the turbine wheel in an optimum manner, diminishing lag at low RPM and easing restriction at high RPM. To keep from stalling the compressor when the throttle is lifted, Porsche temporarily halts fuel delivery, leaving the throttle open, so boost is available when the driver gets back on the gas. Intake and exhaust valves both have variable timing and lift for improved efficiency. Auto stop-start is now standard. Flow through the coolant and lubrication pumps varies according to demand. To give the new Turbo 4s an aggressive bark, there's a valve in the optional sport exhaust that opens at 3,500 revolutions per minute to bypass part of the muffler. Push that button while idling, though, and the additional sound is both a letdown and out of character, more Subaru WRX than Porsche. In addition to hiking both peak power and torque to 350 horsepower at 6,500 revolutions per minute and 309 lb-ft at 1,900 revolutions per minute, the S engine's turbo fills in the 2,500 to 4,500 rpm valley in the previous 3.4-litre naturally aspirated engine's torque curve. The new torque plot is dead flat from 1900 to 4,500 revolutions per minute, mimicking an electric motor's response when you dip into the throttle. That means you no longer have to drop a gear or wait for the tach needle to whirl to execute a quick pass. This new torque bounty did prove frustrating at the track. Our acceleration test skills were challenged by the Boxster S's lack of launch control, superb traction, and 4,500 revolutions per minute limit prior to clutch engagement. Coaxing more than a quick chirp from the rear wheels and keeping the tach needle on the fruitful side of the dial was impossible. That's a long way of saying the new Turbo 4 engine is susceptible to bogging. We clocked the run to 60 miles per hour in 4.3 seconds, just a tenth of a second quicker than the slightly lighter Boxster S we tested 4 years ago. The better news is we beat that normally aspirated predecessor by 0.3 seconds and 2 miles per hour in a quarter mile, running 12.6 seconds at 113 miles per hour. Top gear acceleration was slightly slower from 30 to 50 miles per hour, but a satisfying 0.7 second quicker from 50 to 70 miles per hour. Addictive personality. Of course, life is more than stats. Tickle the throttle with 2000 or more RPM on the tack and the boost gauge comes to life while your lower back receives a satisfying shove. This is not to say you'll annihilate Corvettes from stoplights, but, like every Boxster for the past 2 decades, there are compensating virtues. One is impeccable braking with superb pedal feel, effort, and modulation. We measured the 144-foot, 70 toes stopping distance, 3 feet shorter than the previous Boxster S and 5 feet better than a Jaguar F-Type S. Cornering addicts who settle into the Boxster S's cockpit should plan on being consistently late for dinner. To improve response, Porsche bolted in the 911 Turbo's rack and pinion steering gear, quickening the on-center ratio by 10%. Hints of actual road feel work their way to the wheel, a rarity for electrically assisted steering. There's just enough understeer at the 1.04 grams cornering limit to let you know you're not tethered to the road with steel cables. Pitch and roll motions are verboten thanks to shrewd suspension calibrations and adaptive dampers which cost $2,070 extra. For daily herring around combined with supreme track day competence, few sports cars at any price top a Boxster S. Add to that a ride that never beats you up. As convertibles go, this is one of the best. The top disappears and reappears in 10 seconds at speeds up to 43 miles per hour at the flick of a switch and serves as its own boot unfolded. There's so little cockpit turbulence you can bask in the sun at 100 miles per hour. Some of us love the cup holders that swing out of a cleverly covered dash slot, others vote no on that execution. One missing convenience is a handy place to park your smartphone. However, there are decent storage areas in the glove box, center console, and door pockets, plus a reasonable amount of luggage space divided between the trunks at each end of the car. If only Porsche had contrived some way to actually see the new Turbo 4 engine short of lifting the car on a hoist. The odd thing about this third-generation Boxster S is that dropping 2 cylinders saved no weight and the presumed goal of higher EPA ratings also wasn't realized. The car tested here is 52 pounds heavier than the aforementioned 2013 model, largely the result of adding larger brakes and more sophisticated dampers. EPA city ratings are unchanged at 20 miles per gallon with the 6-speed manual and 21 miles per gallon with the PDK automatic, but there's a 2 miles per gallon decline in highway mileage to 26 miles per gallon for the stick and 28 for the PDK. We recorded 18 miles per gallon overall, versus 19 for the previous Boxster S, and a commendable 30 miles per gallon while cruising at 75 miles per hour. Big spender. A wealth literally of options in our test example rocketed this Boxster S's price from $69,450 to a frightful $94,310. For reference, the 911, with 2 more cylinders and a second turbo, starts at $90,450. The list of 18 options included stuff that's almost essential: the $2,070 sport suspension, $1,580 20-inch wheels, and a $1,320 torquey vectoring differential, but they were expensive upgrades that the frugal could live quite happily without. Leather-trimmed heated and cooled 18-way memory seats, for example, added $4,725 to the tab. The Sport Chrono package at first glance seems like a very expensive $1,920 stopwatch perched atop the dash. Closer examination reveals this is the hardcore enthusiast's bonus box. There are analog and digital displays controlled by a column stalk capable of logging hot laps, track position, and whether you're gaining or losing speed. The more useful tool is a twist knob on the steering wheel borrowed straight from the 918 Spider that lets you switch among 4 drive modes. This tunes the operation of a dozen or so systems to tailor the car's dynamics to the driver's mood. You can tighten up the variable powertrain mounts, lift the rear spoiler to its airfoil position, disable auto stop-start, and activate exhaust overrun pops and snorts. Some of the noise is piped through a speaker, but the Sport and Sport Plus drive modes rid the soundtrack of any hint of a Volkswagen Beetle. That's not to say it brings the return of the previous Flat 6 soundtrack, which could outperform the lead tenor at the Metropolitan Opera. The new notes fall more under the heading of karaoke howling, and the sound is enough of a loss to the overall experience that it would send us to the UZ car listings in search of a previous generation Boxster with the singing 6 instead. Still, aside from the sound, consider the 718 Boxster S, the antidote to autonomous driving. Steering that speaks with the road, a shifter that connects driver and driveline, and the raucous throb of gasoline and air converted to forward momentum might soon be obsolete if the soothsayers are to be believed. To that we say enjoy the magic while it lasts.